Well, hello and welcome to Understand Men Now. I'm Jonathan Aslay of jonathanashlay.com, and I'm so excited to be doing this live stream for you today. Our topic, what is it again? The 6 things women say that make men feel insecure. And number 4 is a no-no. Please don't ever do this one. Really quickly, if you're brand new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can be notified of new content, or new videos, I should say. And if any time during this video the content does resonate with you, please do me a favor and hit that like button so more people get to see this in the YouTube algorithm. Okay, we're going to talk about those 6 things that women say that make men feel insecure. Now, before I get into this live stream or this video, I do want to say that men do things that are, men can say terrible things to women. So this is not, specific to one gender. I'm simply talking about men, what women say to men, because my channel is for women to understand the way men operate. And certainly I want to acknowledge that men say some really stupid things to women. So this goes, stupid wasn't a fair word, but men can certainly say things that can make a woman feel insecure, and women can say things that make men feel insecure. But today I want to talk about what some women say that make men feel insecure. So can we agree on that first and foremost? Thank you. All right, so I'm going to put on my trusty glasses because I want to say one thing, is that most men are good guys. Most men are good guys. It's just most human beings are bad at interpersonal relationships. Let me repeat that. Most human beings are bad at interpersonal relationships. And just like a woman wants to please a man, most men want to please a woman. In fact, most men want to be a woman's hero when they're in relationship with them. And yet there are things that block human beings from being fully capable of being in a relationship. So I get it. The dating process is frustrating. The relationship process is frustrating. And it's because most human beings really don't know how to effectively communicate their feelings in a way that can be seen, heard, and understood. This is one of the reasons why I shoot these videos along with some of my contemporaries who shoot videos, so we can just give you some understanding in human behavior, both male behavior and female behavior. And today we're going to address the types of things that set men off, that makes them feel less than themselves when this happens. And let me just say this. As I said in the beginning of this, men can say things that can trigger a woman, and a woman can say something that can trigger a man. And it is very natural to feel insecure in a relationship. It's very natural to experience something known as a trigger that causes us to feel insecure. This doesn't mean that the person is a bad person. I've heard some women say, well, you know what, a guy that's insecure is not the guy for me. Well, every human being has fears. Every human being has fears. So what I'm about to say isn't singular to men, because we human beings all have fears. But there are some things that can trigger a guy, and that's what I want to dive into today. All right, so now I'm going to put on my trusty glasses. And here's my notes. So I just wrote them out for you. The 6 things women say that make men feel insecure. So the first one that on my list, and actually, I'm stealing a line from the movie Mr. Mom. Does anyone remember the movie Mr. Mom? There's a scene where Michael Keaton is driving his kids to school, and he's driving in backwards. And one of the school teachers or the school moms there says, "You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong." And this is something we men have heard in the relationship realm, especially in the area of in the bedroom. I've heard other men share this with me. I've heard women say this to men. I've had it said to me that you're doing it wrong. And nothing makes a human being feel less of a man or less of a woman when we're criticized in the bedroom, Maybe some of you have said it yourself. And I can tell you as a man, like I said, there is nothing more humiliating, I should say, and shameful when we're told we're not good in the bedroom. And then the worst thing that relates, that is to piggyback on that, is when something is related to the performance of our ability to perform. And since my audience is mostly midlife, which is after baby making years and before retirement, the vast majority of men in this age and women, they're biologically just aren't what we were in our 20s. I'm sorry to say, I just don't have the flagpole I used to have in my 20s and 30s. I so miss those days. And it's sad. I mean, it's frustrating to me and it's shameful to me that I can't be what I once was. And so God forbid I'm criticized or judged for it, or shamed for it, or humiliated for it. And I'm certainly, you would most likely would feel the same way if a man said something similar to you. This is why it's so important to have good, open communication and dialogue when you are in the bedroom, and maybe talk about things in advance so it doesn't have to be right in the heat of the moment that you're told you're doing something wrong. So number one is the phrase, "You're doing it wrong." Okay, number two. And number two is, this reminds me of my younger brother. I should have put a picture of him up there. It's got my kids up there and me. My younger brother is, he has a propensity to, but he has this desire to fix things around the house. And sadly though, he's not good at it. So his wife will say something like, "Well, let's hire someone to fix it." So that's the phrase. Let's hire to someone, I'll hire someone to fix it. Instead of giving him the opportunity to fix it and fail. Here's the thing, ladies, we men, again, in the certain areas of our lives, especially when it comes to fixing things, maybe some men are stubborn, not all. Some, like me, I hire people. I just hired a guy to hook up my TV because I couldn't figure out all the buttons and things. And when I say buttons and things, I'm just saying now it's so complex. You need a PhD in electronics to put together a TV. So I hired someone to do it, but that wouldn't be my brother. He would try to do it himself. And there have been times when his wife said, "Well, let's just hire someone to do it." And that actually kind of, humiliates him. That says that he's not good enough when someone says that. Now, I'm certainly, there's a benefit for her to doing that, but like I said before, ladies, sometimes we men have to fail to recognize it for ourselves. So I'm just here to say, just be cautious when you're in this type of environment, to recognize that most men want to try to do things themselves. Doesn't mean that they're good at it, but we still need to try. Is this making sense? Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know. Okay, number two. Oh, this is one I've heard a lot. And when a woman says in a tone, "Don't interrupt me, I'm talking. Don't interrupt me, I'm talking." To me, that's kind of a level of toxic communication when it's coming across as saying, "You're bad, you're not good." That's effectively what that says. So I'm a big proponent that if there is communication going on, and sometimes people can be myopic, they could be interrupting, not intentionally, rather than shaming someone saying, by saying, "Don't interrupt me, I'm talking," simply say, "Hey, honey, I'd like to finish what I'm sharing. Is that okay with you?" That would be a softer, kinder way than using toxic communication. And sadly, and I call it toxic communication, but when it's coming at it, pointing the finger at someone, certainly to a man, that can feel very degrading. And certainly to a woman as well. So I just want you to be mindful of this level of communication that, as I wrote in my book, for those who are familiar with my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? Is chapter 1 is speak your truth. Just do it kindly. Just do it kindly. That's my invitation for everyone. By the way, there's a link below in the description. In the description, there's a link for my book and my recommended books, and to apply for coaching and my podcasts and that sort of thing. Okay, number 4. And remember, I said this is the no-no. Now, what I'm about to share comes from the movie Don John. Don John. I don't know if any one of you saw this movie. It's with oh shoot, what's his name? Gordon Levitt, something or other. He's got 3 names to his name, and then Scarlett Johansson. By the way, I've got my Moscow Mule. It's Friday. I'm going out to meet up with my friends tonight. We don't have to wear masks now. Yay. I mean, for those of us who got the shot. Anyway, so I'm hooking up with my friends. So going back to the movie Don John. Now, really quickly, the movie is about a man who has a porn addiction. But at one point in the movie, he's dating Scarlett Johansson. And Scarlett Johansson is basically pushing him around and changing him. I mean, literally from day one, she's starting to change him. And because he put her up on a pedestal, he started to accommodate her. But then he realized that this is a lopsided relationship. All she's doing is trying to change him, trying to change him, trying to change him. And he says, this isn't working for me. And he ends the relationship. A few weeks later, and he does it, she catches him. I apologize. She catches him using porn and the relationship ends. I apologize. That's what happened. So another scene or two later, he wants to apologize to her and he meets up with her. And she says the following thing, or roughly the following thing. And this is the phrase, men can't stand. And that phrase is, a real man would do this. A real man would do this. Whenever a man hears something like that, a real man would do this. And what she was implying is a real man will compromise his life for his partner. Ladies, this terminology, a real man, I personally can't stand it. I can't stand it because we are real human beings. Some are men, some are women, okay? But to label someone real is basically saying you're better than someone else. You're better than someone else. And I'm really not a big proponent, excuse me, I'm spitting, of making comparisons about people. Because a relationship is about compromise, and I'm not discounting her request to make a compromise, but to add that phrase, a real man would do this, is rather insulting to us men. And I'm just going to say that, not to the extent that it makes us feel insecure. Quite frankly, that particular one will just say, I think is insulting. But the tone itself can come across shameful and judging. And for someone who has, like myself, I have relatively thin skin, that will affect me. That would affect me. So I just want to invite you to be careful when using the phraseology real man. Okay? Okay. And that's the no-no one. Okay, number 5. This one actually is interesting one because I've heard this myself from women. But I've heard the phrase, my other guy friends listen to me. My other guy friends listen to me. Now, going back to the idea of using comparisons and then using men as comparisons. Again, when we're judging our partner's behavior, and then framing it in such a way to compare them to others, that's actually, again, toxic communication. That's when I mean by toxic, I simply mean unkind communication, unkind communication. So I want to encourage everyone to use their kindness when they communicate. And certainly when someone is not listening to you, I understand the importance to be seen, heard, and understood. I get that. But I want to acknowledge that to make that comparison, and men are territorial. So that totally can affect our self-esteem. But as soon as you start bringing up your friends, because then we're wondering, are you sleeping with your friends? Do you care about more them than you do myself? So that phraseology, I just wouldn't use. Comparisons, like I said before, real man or my friends. And number six. Oh, okay, before I share the actual one, I want to share a quick story. Some years back, for those who know me, I was in a significant relationship with a woman who was a marriage and family therapist. She's a doctor. And we did a lot of joint work together, and we actually co-authored a program called We Need to Talk, Bringing Up the Touchy Subjects. We Need to Talk, Bring Up the Touchy Subjects. By the way, anyone who joins my private group today will get a copy of it. By the way, there's a link in the description. My group is called Midlife Love Mastery, but I'll give you a copy of this workbook that we put together called We Need to Talk, Bring Up the Touchy Subjects. And she and I we were invited to speak in an event. We flew up to San Francisco. We live in Los Angeles to speak at this event. And we were all excited. We created this big workbook, you know, where there were going to be a couple hundred people there. And the night before the event, we went out to dinner. And as we were walking back to the hotel, I took a wrong turn and we walked down. And by the way, a lot of times there's alleyways in between the streets, and within San Francisco or even New York, the alleyways are very short. They're only like 20 feet or 30 feet. And we're walking down an alleyway and I realized I kind of made the wrong turn and I got turned around. I got lost. And all of a sudden she's like, let's get directions. Let's get directions. I'm like, no, sweetheart, I've got it. And I felt like I had it. Okay. I felt like I had it. And she's like, let's get directions. And she was insistent upon it. Well, I was upset because that's actually affecting my basically saying you're not good enough. And I simply was just disoriented for a short period of time because I looked at the buildings and didn't recognize, like I could see the skyline. I knew we needed to walk in that direction. And I literally was only 2 streets off because we had walked about a mile or so. Anyway, we end up by the way, really quickly to balance out this story. First off, I can't stand we need to get directions. Men don't like to be told to get directions. Here's the deal, ladies. Let us fail, but let us fail our own way. We'll figure it out ourselves, but we don't like to be told what to do. This reminds us of our mothers telling us what to do. So whenever you say, let's get directions, it's literally bringing us back to childhood, being told what to do. And it basically says, I don't believe you're good enough, that you can take care of me. Now, what happened in this particular case is she and I got in a raging fight. And we literally walked back. By the way, we did get to the hotel. We got back and she started packing to get on an airplane to go back home. We got in a raging fight over this. And about 10, 15 minutes went by. And I mean, like she's calling the airline and stuff and having a problem getting, you know, a flight or whatnot. And she said, I'd call back. And it occurred to me that it was time to shift the energy. So what I did next was something brand new to my coaching practice that I want to invite everyone to attempt for themselves. I just started to recite what I was most grateful for about her and our relationship. I started to recite 5 things I was grateful for about our relationship. And as I started to share, I could see the ice melting, this block of ice that she created. You know, and by the way, we were screaming so loud, you could hear us like 20 rooms down the hall at this nice hotel. But as I started to share, the ice started to melt and she was kind of opening up. And then after I said the 5th one, I said, you know what, sweetheart, I invite you to share 5 things you're most grateful for about me and our relationship. And as she started to share more, the ice kept melting, and then we could talk about what happened. Now, the cool thing about this story is she didn't leave. We did go to the event, and since the topic was we need to talk, bring up the touchy subjects, this was the story we shared for everyone. And we got great applause, and it was kind of like divine fate, if you will, because we needed this experience to actually amplify our speaking session, if you will, because we were on stage for an hour and we got lots of people to sign up to our program. Again, if you want to get a copy of We Need to Talk, bringing up the touchy subjects, do me a favor, join my group, Midlife Love Mastery, and then send me an email after you do requesting a copy and I'll send it to you as my gift to you. All right, those covered those 6 things you don't want to say to a guy that makes him feeling secure. I'm just going to repeat them really quickly. You're doing it wrong. I'll hire someone to fix that. Don't interrupt me. I'm talking. A real man would do this. My other guy friends listen to me, or my other guy friends blank. And lastly, can we just get directions? All right. We're going to take questions in a moment for those that are on the chat right now. Just as a reminder, if you have a question, write the word question and post a question. Before that, though, I do want to share something with everyone, and it's a little bit personal. Folks, one of the reasons why I knock other dating coaches, I want to be very candid about this because it's not, some might think it's not very professional for me to do that. Part of the reason I do this is because dating advice is not about attraction. Let me repeat that. Dating advice is not about attraction, because here's the problem when most dating advice is centered around how to build attraction between two human beings. And that's great. You know, it's great to want to learn how to build attraction, but here's the problem with it. If you find yourself attracted to a person that doesn't share your values, that doesn't have a lifestyle that can blend with yours, or they're not emotionally mature, you can spend days, weeks, months, or even years investing in the wrong person. And when we do, and by the way, now in the dating realm, because of the amount of, because we're no longer meeting people we know, we're no longer meeting people we know, or are within our circle of friends. In fact, the vast majority of people are going out on a first date tonight, most likely met through their devices, okay? They're total strangers to one another. And the problem is we don't know anything about them. And we are so habitual, we're taught to focus on attraction and chemistry as the indicator for relationship success. I'll repeat that. Most people have been indoctrinated into that chemistry leads to relationship success, and most dating advice is centered around attraction and not understanding human behavior. Let me repeat that, not understanding human behavior. And so what ends up happening is you have a date, it doesn't go anywhere. You have another date, doesn't go anywhere. You have another date that doesn't go anywhere. You have a relationship that doesn't go anywhere. You have another relationship that doesn't go anywhere. You have another relationship that doesn't go anywhere. And eventually what happens, this wears on our emotional psyche. Let me repeat that. This wears on our emotional psyche. And what I'm here to say is interpersonal relationships are fucking complicated. They're ridiculously complicated. And most dating advice is teaching most people to just don't be too serious. Don't be too serious. Don't be too serious. Just have fun. Just have a good time. Just be in your feminine energy and have a good time. Ladies, I'm here to promote something different. I'm here to promote to become radically serious. In fact, part of my coaching program now, I've just created a new module within my program called Radical Honesty, pre-qualifying your prospect. Let me repeat that, pre-qualifying your prospect. Ladies and gentlemen, when I was in sales, I used to do sales 25 years ago. No, 25 years ago. One of the things I used to do was pre-qualify my prospects so I didn't waste time with the wrong person. This is what I teach in my private coaching program, how to pre-qualify before you actually ever invest significant amount of face-to-face time with potentially the wrong person. And this simply means learning who's truly compatible with you, how to ask the right questions, and then lastly, vetting for emotional maturity. And I'm here to say this, we need to get serious. Stop this. It's so important to actually be intentional, because the emotional wear and tear on habitual dating and habitual endings is causing a lot of angst in everybody. This is why I want to introduce a new book to everyone. Those who follow me know I talk about books. I want you to check out this book called Self-Compassion. And the subtitle is The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself. Because here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, compassion for oneself is critically important, because the dating process is ridiculously dysfunctional. And anyone who blows smoke up your ass, like a lot of my contemporaries do, giving you hope, I'm here to say it's more important to understand your own individual human behavior, especially in the area of childhood wounds and traumas that cause negative patterns and limiting beliefs in your life, or adult traumas. And if you're not healing them, or if you're choosing people that aren't healing their own stuff, this is why interpersonal relationships or romantic relationships are rather dysfunctional. In fact, I would venture to say 80% of people in relationships have dysfunctional relationships. So what's happening is those 20% that maybe have good relationships are hyper glorified, but it doesn't necessarily take into account the dysfunctionality within most human beings. And this is why I'm such a big proponent of doing the work. And it's why I recommend so many different books in my videos, like the book, The Hoffman Process, which is a process of healing your childhood wounds and traumas. All right. I think you got enough of it. By the way, another great book, Codependent No More. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, I think it's time to take questions. By the way, if you want to use a super sticker, a super chat, there's a $sign below. All of the money that goes to that is now setting up my foundation for Connor. Connor's my son right there. And right there, he's the one who passed away. Many people have asked me about why I bring him up so much, because he's my child who passed away a few years ago. I'm starting a foundation. And my goal is to create a scholarship fund so people can hire me as a coach who are struggling financially. That's going to be my eventual goal right now with the foundation. So any of the super chat money and super stick money goes to that, and that's where you can write a question as well. All right, let's go through the board and let's see who's asked some questions. First off, I want to thank Leaf and Terry and Michael and Doug for being on, and Kelly and Julie and Jennifer from Ruby and Leaf. So let's find a good question. Someone says it's even toxic even when parents do that. Yes, parents that do that can be very toxic as well. All right. Michael writes, God bless all women and men, because we're all one. Love is only winning. Yes, I agree. Love is only winning. By the way, is that your real six-pack abs, Michael? Okay. Doug says, I've got thin skin too. To be honest, low functioning communication like don't interrupt me, I'm talking, or real men would not go over well with me. I need more high functioning style. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's more important to learn effective communication in interpersonal relationships. This is one of the reasons why I highly recommend reading this book called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. This is it should have been, by the way, it should have been titled Compassionate Communication. Compassionate Communication. Why I'm so high on this book is it teaches a healthier way to communicate with one another. By the way, I basically recommend on average 5 to 6 to 7 books per episode. And I do believe with roughly about the 10 books in my library, the ones I share on a regular basis, by the way, there's a link to Jonathon Recommend Books, are the books that will change your life. And what I mean to say is if you do the work in the books, you'll begin to start changing. I started working with a client back in October, and we just had a coaching session right before this. And she was telling me how much her life has changed and now how she's so excited and ready for the dating process. We had to work on her stuff first to get her prepared. And much of the work I invite everyone to do is to prepare themselves so they can be in a juicy, delicious, healthy relationship. And that's why I'm grateful for men like Doug, because these are high value men, high quality guys. Now, I said earlier, I don't like judging, and I simply mean these are individuals that are doing the work. That to me is the value. People that are doing the inner work to me are the ones that I want to invest in, and that's my invitation for everyone as well. And I will say there was a little bit of judgment in that, so I'd like to backtrack a little bit, but hopefully you can read between the lines there. Doug, I'm with you. Those bug me as well. All right, let's see what else we have here. Michelle writes, everyone holds insecurities. We're only human. I got taught that it's better to build someone's confidence rather than to break it into a million pieces. We're all human. Spread love, not hate. Yes, yes, yes. I love that. And what I want to say there's an old saying, praise in public and criticize in private. Let me repeat that. Praise in public, criticize in private. Sadly, today, we are living in an environment where we shame, crucify, and criticize people habitually through social media. Let me repeat that. Shaming, criticizing habitually just it's toxic out there, and it is creating literally a civil war amongst human beings. I mean, we're literally creating a divide by all the toxicity. And like John Lennon said, the true answer in all this is we need love. And that's why I really appreciate what Michelle just said here, because that's what we need more of. And we can pass it forward through compassion for ourselves, compassion for others, compassion for humanity, because most human beings are good people. We've all got our shit. We've all got our stuff. Some have more than others. And I promise you, the people that you dislike the most, you wouldn't trade their childhood. I promise you. The people you dislike most, if you found out what their childhood was like, I highly doubt you would trade your life for them. So just remember that. And maybe with that thought, we can have compassion rather than judgment. Thank you, Michelle. I really appreciate that. All right, let's see what else we have here. Let's see what Dallas says. I've done this, taking a step back and breathing, looking at the overall picture and the person you're fighting with, not with what you're fighting about, makes you tap into your heart again versus emotions. Yes, yes, yes. We have to take away, look at the big picture. Oftentimes we get so hyper focused on pointing the finger at the person instead of looking at the three fingers that maybe I'm the cause of this. Maybe I'm the cause of this. This is why I'm such a big proponent of doing the inner work, reading the books that I recommend. I recommended the Hoffman Process a moment ago. I recommend this book, Attached by Amir Levine. We'll probably bring it up again in this video, Understanding Love Attachment Style. So Dallas, thank you so much. I totally agree. Tap into your heart. All right, let's see who we got here. Kelly, you got a super sticker. Did you write anything? Well, sweetheart, thank you for the super sticker. I really appreciate that. All right. Let's see what else we have in the way of questions. If you have a question, write the word question and then post the question thereafter. We got a lot of people chatting here. Here's Miscellaneous Miss, the Miscellaneous Miss. Question, what if a guy is scared sharing his feelings and not really getting serious and is talking to other people? So when I hear questions like this, my question for you, the miscellaneous miss, is what about you? How do you feel about this? Because this isn't really about him, this is about you. So my invitation for you to check in is, how do you feel? Because if someone's scared of sharing their feelings and they are not really serious about, and they're talking to other people, why do you want to invest in that person? Listen, folks, I want to clear the air on something. I'm a big believer of dating only one person at a time. I've got to sneeze in a second. Dating one person at a time. Now, I'm a big proponent of pre-qualifying as many prospects at the same time. So let's differentiate between dating, meeting, and pre-qualifying, okay? Pre-qualifying your prospect basically means is after you've swiped on one another, I'm a big proponent of asking deeper questions before you ever meet. Let me repeat that, asking deeper questions before you ever meet, because you might save yourself the time of getting dressed up, driving somewhere, sitting, then finding out there's no chemistry, and then being stuck, or having chemistry only to find out they're not compatible with you. So first, I want to say, I believe in pre-qualifying as many prospects as you have. Now, as far as meeting someone for the first time, to the extent that your schedule can fit, meet people at your leisure according to your schedule. The first date is not a date. It's simply a meeting. You're meeting oftentimes for the first time, if it is not somebody you knew prior to the scheduling of this date or this meeting. So now, if you go on now you meet this person again. And after that's your real first date. That's your real first date. Now, if you decide to see each other again and again and again, that's called dating. Remember the ing. There's a date and then there's dating. I'm a big proponent of dating only one person at a time. If someone is dating you and they feel the need to date others, you know what I say? Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Go. Because if you're not going to invest in getting to know me, why should I invest in getting to know you? Now, we can, remember I said earlier, we can do this process, hey, let's just have a good time. It's all about having a good time. Don't be too serious, Jonathan. Just have a good time. Ladies, I'm here to say, stop having a good time. Start being intentional. Start being serious, because you don't have enough time to go out with knuckleheads. And by the way, we don't have time to go out with, lazy, gold digging, whatever you want to call, women that aren't very serious. Okay. You can, whatever label you want to put on that. Okay. So I'm here to say, become more intentional. So going back to your question, I wouldn't invest in someone who isn't going to invest in me. That's the way I operate, and that's my invitation for you as well. I hope that helped the miscellaneous miss. Thank you for your question. I really appreciate it. All right, let's see what else we have. Leaf says, I prefer your straight up candidness much more, Jonathan. Saves time, resources, and energy. We're already older and can't afford to lose many more of those years. Or you didn't say years. Thank you for being unique and authentic. Thank you so much, Leaf. I really appreciate that. All right. Dallas says, learning how the psychology works in a certain situation and between certain types of individuals cracks the code of success. Yes, yes, yes. If ladies and gentlemen, if you want to read a great book, read this book called If the Buddha Dated. If the Buddha Dated, oh my God, this gets down to the heart-centered way of truly getting to know another human being. Let me repeat this. This gets to the heart-centered way of getting to know another human being. And I highly, highly, highly recommend this book, along with going back to The Four Agreements. Oh my God, this is a great book to have for yourself, to show up with integrity so your actions match your words. Be impeccable with your word. Don't let other people's opinions of you affect you. Don't make projections of other people. And lastly, do your best. This is a great book for character, for your integrity, and choose people who operate from this same space as well. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know. Thank you. All right, time for a Moscow Mule. Julia says, guys are invested when they share their feelings. Now, great question, but ladies, I want to differentiate something. A lot of men are attracted to femininity. Let me repeat that. A lot of men are attracted to femininity. Why? Because men feel safer to share their problems with a woman. Let me repeat that. Men feel safer to share their problems with a woman than their other male friends, because they don't want to be perceived weak. So a lot of times men will, they connect with you on a site, they start communicating with you, and they start sharing their problems, okay? And you're thinking, wow, he's into me. He's sharing his feelings, okay? Sharing one's emotional problems, let me reframe that. Problems, and I'm talking about emotional problems. It might be divorce, it might be work, his feelings centered around problems, okay? That might end up appearing to be very intoxicating to many of you. And you wonder, wow, if he must be really into me. But some men do this because they appreciate your femininity. In other words, they appreciate the female species to talk to. Oh, I almost said a real man. Oh, fuck. I can't believe I was going down that road. See, I just was toxic right now. What I meant to say, a man who is truly emotionally available, that would be a better way of putting it. I just got myself. A man who's truly emotionally available doesn't share his problems. He actually is capable of sharing his fears. Because when a man can share his fears, that is true intimacy. True intimacy. What does intimacy mean? Into me you see. Into me see. Into me see. Into me you see. Okay? Intimacy. Intimacy happens when we're sharing our fears and not necessarily our problems. And this is where a lot of women get hung up, because the men are sharing their problems, not their fears. And they think, and this is music to women's ears, because they think it's intimacy, but it's just simply venting. And why do men vent to women? Because a lot of times we can't vent to our male friends because we don't feel safe with them, because we don't want to be perceived as weak to our male friends. Does this make sense? And this is why a lot of women get sucked in the trap of a guy who's sharing his problems, and he's not emotional problems, but he's not truly creating intimacy with you. He just wants someone to vent to or complain to. So anyways, guys are invested when they're sharing, I believe, their insecurities, not necessarily their problems. That's my perception on that, Julia. Thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it. All right, see what else we have. Lillian says, see, when I'm on the road and the driver doesn't know for sure where he's going, it triggers my fear of being lost in a bad neighborhood. So I'm in that scenario. I'll do anything to get back on track. Lillian, thank you so much. So what I didn't share in that story, what I learned later was my partner was feeling exactly what she said. She was feeling fear. So her fear caused her to, you know, criticize or judge or shame me, which I understand why. And my bravado or my desire to be her hero was butting up against my own ability to say, look, I want you to trust that I can take care of you. So we were actually at friction point. Now, Lillian brings up a great point. I later recognized when we were able to drop the walls of ice, she was able to share what was coming up for her, and I was able to share what was coming up for me. That is true communication and dialogue. But what we needed to do was drop the ice. And when she said that, it walled me up, and she was feeling fear that walled her up. Now, I had to use the gratitude technique that I taught you to bring that ice down to a place where we could speak. And she did share her feelings. So Lillian, I do understand exactly how you felt, because she shared that with me, and I'm glad you brought that up. So I hope that helps you understand what was actually going on a little bit deep. I hope everybody understands the deeper thing that was going on in that scenario. So thank you so much. All right, Gentle Soul writes, what would be good examples of non-blendable lifestyles? Does it necessarily have to do with how much we earn? We both do office jobs. He paid more than I do, probably 3 times more. Okay, great question. Thank you, Gentle Soul. So blendable lifestyles. Okay, income. Okay, money is simply a tool. Money is a tool. And certainly 2 incomes are better than 1. So eventually in a relationship, the person who has the most should certainly support the relationship the most. That's kind of my general rule of thumb. So with regarding to lifestyle, money is not the real crux of what I talk about blendable lifestyles. I'm talking about this. I live in Los Angeles, you live in San Diego. I'm just picking an example of a long distance relationship. You have a job where you're well rooted, you have family that's well rooted. I have a job here, I've got family, I'm well rooted. But we connect on the internet because we are attracted to one another and we're driven by chemistry, so we start a relationship. And you have your yoga on the weekdays, and you have this, and you have your friends, and I've got this or that, but we're amped up on chemistry, so we try to make it work. But eventually, it's going to be a challenge if our lifestyles can't blend with one another, because the relationship will end. So ultimately, blendable lifestyles has to do with proximity. It has to do with your, are you a action-oriented person or are you a homebody? As an example, if you're different that's another example of lifestyle. What's your schedule like? Are you raising 3 children and you're busy 24/7, or are you an empty nester? Someone who's an empty nester is going to have a real problem with someone who's raising children, because that's going to, That's going to eat up on the time of spending time together. These are just a few examples of some of the challenges of blending lives. And that doesn't include whether or not, one person goes to church and the other person isn't a church person, to name, or maybe they have different political views or some other stuff. Well, that's really more about values. But these are just a few examples of lifestyle. Someone who is a snow skier and a jock. I've met women who are total jocks, and I'm not a jock. And I'm like, I'm not the right person for you, because you need a jock in your life because that's your lifestyle. So gentle soul, it's not so much about the money, it's about how your life is organized. And that's, I think, might help you understand the concept of blendable lifestyles. Okay? All right, what else do we have here? Here we go, Frida. Question, can guys and girls be friends? I thought so, but now I'm not so sure. I have guy friends and swear it is not possible. Yes, sex always gets mentioned. Okay, I would say it's very challenging for two emotionally immature people to be, guy and girl, to be friends with one another. And what I mean by emotionally immature is you don't operate from the 4 agreements, okay? When a relationship ends and it is no longer a relationship where there's emotional and sexual intimacy together, then it's really important to set a boundary. But many people don't know how to set a boundary because they're still feeding off of maybe emotional intimacy, or they have a sexual desire for their partner. Let me repeat that. They're feeding off of the emotional intimacy, or they're have sexual desire for their partner. If one person has sexual desire for the other person, then they're always going to have an agenda anytime they communicate. Now, for example, I have an ex-wife who I don't call us friends, but we communicate on a regular basis with one another. And sometimes very personal communication, mostly centered around our son who passed away. And I have an ex-girlfriend. I don't like saying ex-girlfriend, but I had a relationship that didn't go the distance. It ended 4 years ago, and we are still in each other's lives as friends. Now, one of the things, and we really call each other family, but what we really do for one another, we agreed that we would no longer talk about emotional things related to either our dating life or our relationships. Let me repeat that. We made an agreement not to talk about emotional things related to either dating or relationships, because that could fuel something called emotional sex. Emotional sex. In fact, the person I'm speaking about, my ex-girlfriend, wrote a book. Here's a picture of her. Okay, she wrote a book called Chatting or Cheating: How to Detect Infidelity, Rebuild Love, and Affair-Proof Your Relationship. Chatting or cheating. One of the highlights of the idea of this book is something known as emotional sex. And the hard part for emotionally weak human beings is they can get sucked into what's known as emotional sex, and that can oftentimes lead to physical intimacy. So while I believe it's absolutely possible to have a relationship with an ex-partner, what it requires is something known as a conscious uncoupling, a conscious uncoupling. And if you're not familiar with the book Conscious Uncoupling by Catherine Woodward Thomas, Conscious Uncoupling, I'm going to shrink this. Thank you, Frida. Conscious Uncoupling by Catherine Woodward Thomas. This is a great book to teach you how to end a relationship in a healthy, happy way. In fact, the ex-girlfriend and I, this book, we're on page 220 and 221, because we did a conscious uncoupling and the author asked to use our story in her book. And I'm a big proponent that when you do a conscious uncoupling, you can actually, the thing is, the love, what's the line from Sex and the City? If you love someone and break up, where does the love go? It's something along that lines. Can someone find that quote for me? I think it's something like that. But the love doesn't have to go anywhere. You can still maintain the love and not be in relationship with another human being. You can maintain the love and not be in relationship with human being. Understand something, folks. A healthy, happy relationship has mechanics to it. And this is why I highly recommend reading the book 8 Dates by Dr. John and Julie Gottman, so you can understand the mechanics to a healthy, happy relationship. She and I were missing some key fundamental pieces. We had a lot of love, but here's the thing about love. Love can't make a relationship work. Shared values, blendable lifestyles, and emotional maturity is what makes a relationship work. You have to learn the mechanics to a healthy, happy relationship, because love in and of itself, you can keep the love, but it doesn't mean you're right for one another. And before the penis ever goes inside the vagina, ladies, buy this book. Buy this book so you can learn the mechanics to a healthy, happy relationship, and buy a copy for the guy. This book is meant to be read with a guy. And I got to tell you, I'm getting email after email from women saying, Jonathan, I'm using your advice. I bought this book, and the relationship, the guy I'm with, we're having better communication with one another because we're talking about real things instead of just having a good time. Let's have a good time. I'm just going to sit in my feminine energy and have a good time. This book ruined it for people. The book, The Rules, this stupid reverse psychology, male manipulation book, has set up generations of bad dating that we're experiencing today. And my hope is that my channel is inviting you to do something different for yourself and for, oh, my phone is going to beep. I better turn it off. I didn't put it on mute. Is going to change your life. And this is why I encourage everyone to begin a daily practice of personal development, self-help, and spiritual work, so you can get ready for a juicy, delicious relationship, juicy, delicious, healthy relationship, because you're in a healthy place. And then I teach you how to find a partner who's also in a healthy place. Can I get an amen? Hope so. All right. Thank you. Again, thank you, Frida. I appreciate it. Leaf says, you're 100% right. Thank you, Barbara. Let's see. Media Queen TV. Carrie, if you love someone and you break up, oh, this is Carrie. When you love someone and break up, where does the love go? Samantha, to their next girlfriend. Oh, I didn't know that part. Thank you so much. Amen. There you go. Okay. Kelly says, my boyfriend says he's not ready to introduce me to his daughter as he has as his girlfriend. His daughter thinks I'm still just friends. He says he's not ready, even after 1.5 years. He was divorced 2 years ago. Oh my God, you've been together for 1.5 years and he's not willing to introduce. Listen, folks, children, believe it or not, children are incredibly resilient. Incredibly resilient. I want to tell you a story. When we told okay, so there's Colin and Connor. That's roughly about the ages when my ex-wife and I split up. They were around 8 and 5. You know, when we told them we were getting a divorce, they were like, yeah, so what? They said, yeah, so what? I mean, literally, because you know what? Half of their friends are divorced. Half of the children that they go to school with are divorced. Children are rather resilient. So this fear that he has about his child, you know, first off, I'm not in agreement with that. I think look at ladies, if the penis is going into the vagina on a regular basis, introducing each other to your family and friends is part of the process. And if you don't feel comfortable, well, then do a fucking better job vetting one another. Don't waste someone's time for 1.5 years. I'm sorry, I'm getting agitated on this one, but I feel differently than some other folks on this one. I'm like, look, not to say maybe 6 months into the relationship is okay, but if you've been dating for 6 months, then have a plan of like, why are you dating? Do you look at either you're dating to get married or live together, or they're going to become somebody you used to know. Let me repeat that. You're either dating to either get married or live together, or at least have some sort of maybe living together apart, or they're going to become somebody you used to know. So here's the thing. If you've invested 1.5 years with someone and they're not willing to introduce you to their children, that's not cool on my part. That's just my opinion. But this isn't the Bible. Let me just say something, everybody. I'm just speaking I'm spitting. I'm just merely giving you a perspective. You make the choice after hearing what I have to say. I'm going to repeat that. I'm just giving you perspective. You make the choice for yourself. I just wouldn't be cool with that. I'm a big proponent. Certainly, like the love of my life, my hope is if I'm having a significant relationship and I said the words, I love you, and I'm having sex with her on a regular basis, I'll introduce her to Colin sooner rather than later. That's just me. Okay. Hope that helps, Kelly. All right. Let's see. What does it mean when a man says you deserve so much more? So when a man, this is a great question, by the way. When a man says you deserve so much more, that's an insecure man. That's a man who's emotionally unhealthy, and it's a passive aggressive move on my part, at least my perception on that. That's a very passive aggressive move to get some sort of validation from you that he's worthy. That's a piss poor pussy way. I just said the P word. Please forgive me. I'm shaming whoever I'm not shaming the individual. I'm shaming any guy who says this. That's a weak pussy ass way to get validation. Okay. I would never say that to another human being. And if they're trying to get, if they're trying to get validation, the minute you hear that, say, thank you, I will. That's it. Say, thank you, I will. Because if you don't have enough confidence in yourself that you think you're worthy enough for this relationship, then you're not emotionally mature enough to be, your penis doesn't get to go inside me if you don't have enough self-confidence in yourself. I'm sorry. And by the way, I'm not talking about someone who might temporarily feeling insecure in their life. I'm talking about when someone says that, that's pretty drastic. That's pretty dramatic. Kick them to the curb. That's my feeling on it anyway. All right. Michelle says, thank you for the recognition, Jonathan. I'm watching from UK. Yay. I know it's pretty late where you're at, so thank you. And Leaf says, right. I'm assuming you're agreeing to what I just said. Let's go back up and see if we've got, oh, wait a minute. I don't know if I did this one. Kelly, question, dating a man, been together a year and a half. He says he's not ready. He is in content. He is content how things are. He was divorced 2 years ago. Is this why he's not ready? Okay. Well, he was divorced 2 years ago and you've been together a year and a half. Yes. Someone who hasn't had enough time on their own oftentimes aren't ready. So you're actually unaffectionately known, excuse me, as what's known as the transition girlfriend. That's what you are to him. You're the holding spot while he temporarily gets his basic needs met of companionship, connection, and sex. It's also known, Esther Perel wrote the book called Mating in Captivity. Mating in Captivity. And what you're experiencing is what she calls stable ambiguity. Stable ambiguity. The stable part is you're most likely monogamous and exclusive with another, and it's ambiguous to where this relationship is going because the man isn't ready. Ladies, when I talk about pre-qualifying a prospect, this is my whole coaching program. When someone works with me privately, I teach you how to determine true compatibility, how to ask the right questions, and how to vet for emotional maturity. That's called pre-qualifying your prospect. So before you get emotionally attached, because chemistry will take over, you better know good questions to ask before you give your heart away. I have a video called questions to ask a guy before sleeping together. You might want to watch that. Well, it's too late now, Kelly, but I'm here to say, most likely, I'm not saying an absolute, but there's a good 90% chance you're going to be his transition girlfriend. And by the way, when you've been someone's transition person once or twice, you go, I get it. By the way, how do we get good judgment? It's oftentimes by a lot of bad judgment. And here's the thing, though. As I wrote in my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? Everything is happening for you, not to you. This relationship might be very great. It's probably not going to go the distance, but it's a great relationship. Appreciate the ride and then get back out there and learn the right questions to ask so you don't get stuck in a transition relationship. Can I get an amen? All right. Doug says, hey, buddy, is it possible to have a female friend from by perspective, i.e. for me? I've got good female friends. As long as they're not as long as it's not an ulterior motive from one another. Listen, I think I'm going to tell, by the way, the answer is yes. And for ladies, I'm going to tell you a big part of why I think I'm emotionally mature is because I have female friends. I'm always hearing the female's perspective. Okay, I'm always hearing the female's perspective. Now, I talk to women all day long professionally, but I have a very dear friend. I don't have a picture of her, Tammy. She's okay, so really quickly, this is a woman I met online in 2005 on and we had a mutual friend. We met through a dating app. We had a first date, but there wasn't chemistry. But it was weird. We had a great connection, but there wasn't chemistry. And she's very attractive, and I'd like to think I'm attractive. But we had this affinity for one another, and we just began talking practically every day. Not quite every day, but I've been through 3 of her relationships. She's been through 2 of my relationships. We literally talk to each other, I'd say, for the last 15 years, easily once a week for the last 15 years. And we talk about our emotional well-being. We men and women need that. Like I said, men crave femininity and women crave masculinity, not feminine energy and not masculine energy. I'm talking about we appreciate the male perspective and the female perspective. Let's throw that energy perspective out the door, because that's fucking up so much dating. All this feminine energy dating advice is ruining it for you because you're leaning back into your feminine energy, and men's just naturally supposed to claim you. Does that really happen? I mean, most men, first off, if a man opens car doors, pulls out a chair, certainly great gentlemanly acts. But the most gentlemanly thing a person can do is not take charge of the relationship. The most gentlemanly thing a man can do is be a fucking emotional grown-up. That's the most gentlemanly thing a man can do. If he can operate from this perspective, then you're going to be golden. You don't need him to be the leader of the relationship. You just need him to be the leader of his own life in an area of emotional maturity. I hope that's sinking in. Boy, I'm agitated right now. All right, Doug, I think so going back to female friends. By the way, my Moscow Mule, today it's lemonade, lime, and vodka. Typically, it's Sprite or 7-Up, Diet Sprite or Diet 7-Up for me. So yes, they can be friends so long as I said before, it's not, it's not about talking. Well, you can talk about your interpersonal life, but ultimately just know that eventually that's going to be reserved for your partner. And at some point, by the way, my friend Tammy, she's in a relationship. We talk about their relationship frequently. And if I'm in a new relationship, I'll probably talk to her about that. But ultimately, when you have a partner in life, you don't need to have that friend as much because you're focusing on your partner. So there is going to be a shift of space when you're in relationship versus when you're not in relationship. I hope that helps, Doug. Thank you. All right, let me scroll through here. Amen. Here. Lean back, LOL. All right, Media Queen TV has written 2 questions. Here we go. From Australia. I dated a guy who was all into me at first. We had intense connection, and suddenly he went cold for no apparent reason. He said you will find love and be happy. Okay, that's not a question, but I get that there's a part 2 here. So part 2. Okay. He kept seeing his ex-wife as friends on weekends and standing me up. How do I move on from this emotionally, as now I've become even more resigned about meeting the right man? So, I'm going to recommend a book. Well, actually, I want to recommend 2 books. So first off, everybody, I want to recommend this book called The Untethered Soul from Michael Singer. Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Okay, why do I want to recommend this book? This teaches you how to talk to the voices in your head, okay? Now, a grown-up, what's happening, Media Queen, is the little kid inside of you is attached to this person, most likely because you were physically intimate and you were bonded with one another through oxytocin. This is why So what's happening is the little girl inside of you is attached to him. What I want to recommend everybody to do is to start being more intentional and being more grown up in relationship. This is why I want everyone to read this book, How to Be an Adult in Relationships, because we can't allow our little kid to be in charge of our lives. Here's the thing. When we allow our little kid to be in charge of our lives, that puts the other person in the parental role. And this person behavior isn't operating from this perspective. So I'm a big proponent. You end if you want to resign to meeting the right guy, you end communication. You might need to block him for a while, block him on all your social media. Sometimes we have to wean ourselves from another person. Block them from social media, block the temptation to stalk them and do the things that a lot of times people do. And now, depending on how long you dated, I don't recommend jumping back in the dating realm right away, but do personal development, self-help, and spiritual work along the way so that you're ready to be in a healthy, happy relationship. And if you need some support, I definitely recommend reading this book. This is the CD. It's called Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. I love, love, love this book. This book, The Untethered Soul, are two of my favorite books, along with, one of my books just fell, along with my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? A little pitch for my book. By the way, links below. Oh my God, we've been going for an hour. Let's see what else we have here. Candy says, amen. All right. Savior says, what does it mean when he says he doesn't want to hurt me? What does it mean when he says I doesn't want to hurt you? So it basically means is he's aware that he's most likely, this is what it means. He's aware he's not going to go the distance. And we know women get attached to men. Let me repeat this. We men know you women get attached to us. So he knows this. So he's pulling away. He's pulling away because he doesn't want you to get more hurt than you probably already will get hurt because you're attached to him. That's most likely what he means. I don't know. I need more context, but that's most likely what it means. He knows he's not going to go the distance and he's pulling away. Media Queen says, thank you. Yes, great advice. I want to return to love. Amen. All right. Heather says, I'm looking for marriage. If I'm dating someone for 3 months, 6 months, what's the time frame to make sure things are progressing? Do I walk away after 5 months? I don't want to waste time. You know, it takes roughly about 4 seasons to get to know someone, meaning spring, summer, fall, winter, excuse me. Well, usually it starts off at summer, okay? And what I mean is not the time frame, but it's hot and heavy. Then you go to the fall, the winter, you have a storm, and then it comes to the spring. It takes about a year to get to know someone. But the real important question is finding out what do they want in relationship before you ever start embarking on a relationship. And then ultimately, folks, and this is critical, I want everybody to read this book. It's called Spiritual Partnership by Gary Zukav. Spiritual Partnership by Gary Zukav. Why this is so important is that I'm a big believer that as soon as two people embark on a relationship at right around the 3-month mark, they become more, if they've decided they're going to progress the relationship forward, that they become more intentional. And they actually do something what's known as co-creating a relationship, co-creating a relationship. This is why reading the book 8 Dates is so critically important, to learn how to co-create a relationship. So you learn the mechanics, because what you don't want to do is invest a year in a relationship that isn't going to go anywhere. And so it starts by being intentional. So it's not about the time frame, it's more about the intentionality. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? I hope it is. So be more intentional. The 5 months, it's hard to really know someone. It takes about a year to just get to know them at a base level. But it starts by finding out if you're on the same page and continually talking about the relationship. Stop this fear of not asking questions. Ladies, stop being afraid, because all it does is it prolongs the agony. Because here's the thing, as I said in my book, if it's speak your truth, do it with kindness. Chapter 9, if it's sincere and from the heart, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. Heather, start having real dialogue. That's my recommendation for you. Really quickly, I want to give a shout out to Julia. Thank you for the $5. I really appreciate that. All right. Oops. Question, should he always initiate contact? I've been letting him initiate and we go 3 weeks with no contact. Kate, so ladies, I am a big proponent. He initiate contact, you initiate contact. You initiate contact, he initiates contact. He initiates contact, you initiate contact. You initiate contact, he initiates contact. It's a ping pong game. You're waiting 3 weeks when you could just simply say, hey, sweetheart, how you doing? All right. I mean, ladies, stop. I got to scream here. I get frustrated with this one, Kate, and I apologize. I'm not yelling at you. I'm just yelling at this. Ladies, stop expecting men to do all this because you're going to fail. You got to make some effort too. We want to know that you want us as well. So make the effort. And by the way, again, only the wrong guy is going to be scared away. Stop this stupid fucking rules game. I'm sorry, Kate. I apologize. This isn't you. This is everyone. This is a game playing when you're doing that. And guess what? You're the one who gets hurt. So reach out to him. Ask him what's going on. I'm checking in with you. And if he doesn't respond, maybe something's going on in his life. Ladies, look, there are times when I'm knee deep crying my eyes out over my son. There are days when I'm on the floor crying and I don't want to talk to anyone. So what if he's going through something right now and you're just doing the leaning back in your feminine energy? I'm joking here, but you can reach out to him. Okay, I'm sorry, Kate. Can I give you a big, gigantic hug? Because I kind of threw you under the bus on that one. But this one really irks me, and I'm giving you a big hug right now. All right. Thank you. All right. What else do we have? Oh, Doug, thank you. It's a turn on. Ladies, he's saying it's a turn on when a woman initiates. We look at this is the initiation of contact question from a guy's perspective. I've met 2 very nice women last week. I reached out after the meeting to both, and neither is making effort to initiate. Ladies, guys like Doug and I, when we encounter those types of women, this is what we say, bye-bye, because we want 2-lane street. Look at this is a 2-lane street. You make effort, I make effort. I make effort, you make effort. You make effort, I make effort. It's a 2-lane street. If he's making effort and you're here, guess what happens? He goes somewhere else. He goes somewhere else. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. Kate, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. Thanks for your kindness on that one. I really appreciate it. You know what, folks? I'm going out to dinner with my friends tonight. It's one of my dearest friends' 50th something birthday. Collectively, there's 120 years of friendship amongst this circle of friends. So I'm getting together and I'm going to leave here shortly. So I think this will be a good place to wrap up for tonight. Hey, everyone, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to enter your lives today and share a little bit about what I am passionate about is personal development, self-help, and spiritual work to prepare you for the right relationship, and then learning how to vet for emotional maturity and learning how to pre-qualify your prospect. So if you're watching the replay right now, there's a description below. If you want to schedule a discovery call with me, if you join my group called Midlife Love Master, I'll send you the We Need to Talk exercise. I've got a podcast called the What Would Love Do podcast. I've got my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? And all the recommended books is in the links below. I want to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart to allowing me to share with you today. And I truly do hope that you find space to be truly compassionate for yourself, just like when I recommended this first book. Self-compassion is how we get through life in a healthier, happier way. And I want to invite everyone to have self-compassion. All right, I'm going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, giving myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone or a pet or a teddy bear or pillow and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love, and we can all use more love in our lives. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye now.